In 1969, I was a combat infantryman in South Vietnam. That was 50 years ago when I was 19. I'll pause here while you do the math. That would make him, all right, no need to dwell. Well, when people find out that I'm a Vietnam veteran, they very often say something in the order of, thank you for your service. And I know they mean well and to being nice, but to tell you the truth, that compliment always makes me uncomfortable. And in my discomfort, I often say something like, well, you know, it wasn't entirely my idea. The federal government insisted on my participation. But the truth is, I wasn't drafted. That's right. I joined the Army at the height of the Vietnam War. Now, this fact tends to surprise people who know me because they judge, and I like to think, rightly so, that I am not a militaristic, gung-ho, John Wayne sort of guy. So why did I join? Well, 3 reasons. One, and possibly the most important, I was an idiot. The second reason was I didn't have a deferment. After 2 disinterested attempts of semesters at college, my attendance and grade point average had flatlined, so I lost my student deferment. I now recognize there's some overlap between reason 1 and reason 2. The third reason was I was going to get drafted anyway. You have to realize that back then, we had 500,000 or so troops in Vietnam. We were suffering 100 combat combat deaths every week. And in order to support the war effort, they were drafting 30,000 men a month. I was 1A, healthy, unmarried, no dependents, no deferment. But clearly, Uncle Sam was coming for me, and he was coming soon. So I decided, rather than be dragged through that door, I would walk through it. And at the time, I thought that by doing that, I was taking control of my life. I refer you again to reason number 1. So I joined the Army, and you have to, well, as you probably know, by the late 1960s, the Vietnam War had become a tad unpopular, a bit controversial. There were, President Johnson, because of the domestic turmoil and the political turmoil, decided not to run for another term for president. There were demonstrations in the street, riots, killings, assassinations, campus unrest, student strikes. And me, I did not delve into the morality or the causes of the Vietnam War. In truth, it was probably easier for me to go than to resist. I mean, resist, oh my God, to become a draft dodger? My parents would be ashamed of me. People would think I was a coward. I might go to jail. And what about my responsibility as a citizen to be a loyal American and to serve my country? And besides, didn't America always fight on the right side of those conflicts? I was a teenager. I didn't know who was right or who was wrong. You might say, I didn't have the courage to not go to war. So I went. Spoiler alert, I came back. But I'm not here tonight to tell you any war stories. You are very welcome. I wanted to talk about a friend of mine. Tell you a story about a friend of mine. He lives in the Lancaster area, graduated from law school. He's within shouting distance of my age, and we all know what that is. And he's active politically, and I've known him for maybe 10 years. And about 3 years ago, we were having a conversation, and the subject of Vietnam came up. And he told me that right after he graduated from law school, he said it was the same week, he graduated from law school, he got drafted, but he refused to step forward during the induction and take the oath. He decided, well, he knew the war was immoral and he wasn't going to participate. And I was amazed at that. I mean, here is a young man, just finished law school, he's risking criminal prosecution because he was taking a moral stand against the war. I mean, he risked everything. He risked his future, his livelihood, his freedom, all for a moral cause. And that decision, in my book, that decision to take that stand and to be willing to suffer the consequences, that decision took courage.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and what I want to do tonight, and by saying that decision took courage, that's not to belittle or to minimize the many and sometimes horrific sacrifices that those who went to war suffered. I mean, during the war, I saw young men do incredibly insane, courageous things during the insanity of war. And those acts need to be honored and respected. However, tonight, I want to recognize the courage it takes to resist. The courage it took. The courage it took to not go to war. The courage to take that stand and to risk all of those consequences. So tonight, to my friend and to all those who resisted the war and faced those consequences, suffered those consequences, this Vietnam veteran wants to say thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your courage.